Hey, happy Sunday. Good morning, everybody. You will have to excuse me today. This is something that's been going on for a while. There's no secret. I had all my teeth removed and I have dentures. I'm having a problem with one plate, so I am toothless today. I apologize for that. It's going to sound like a little old man doing this, and that's exactly what's happening. A little old man is doing this. Let's see, behind the scenes here, we have typical Oregon springtime weather in that it doesn't know what to do. Um, we had on Thursday, we were running 84 degrees, which is for our friends who are into Celsius, that's almost 29 Celsius, 28.8. And then today it decided to hit 48 degrees, which is 9 Celsius. And we're under a winter storm warning at about 5 o'clock this evening. The winter storm warning is supposed to hit us. And for the next 3 days, we have rain slash snow coming. So much for springtime. Hope you all enjoyed it. So, to all my friends back east of the Rockies, stock up on firewood and duck because it's coming your way. Okay, so with that out of the way, and hopefully everybody can understand me. This morning, the T Shelf project, the video was finally posted. It's just been getting shop time and getting weather to cooperate. Um, yeah, me having to deal with weather, and but it finally got done. I don't have it out here with me, but I will bring up a picture of it in situ as soon as it comes up. And there it is. I'll drag that over to the other monitor, make it full screen, and so I can share it with you. You know, somebody who was better prepared would have had this done already. So, yeah, there it is in place, loaded up, ready to go. And basically that's how it's going to be from now on. The If you've been following me for a while, you know that I made a project video on these lids that I made for standard home canning jars, and she uses the heck out of them, but she's been keeping them in a little cardboard box. So she wanted a way to kind of show it off. Along with this coffee scoop, our good friend Billy Burt back in Texas, he turned this for her out of the same wood that I made the lids for the jars. And she's got space for a couple of coffee cups. I did cut down the height of this front rail after I got it uh, kind of mocked up and dry fitted. It was way too tall. I didn't like it at all. So went ahead and I cut that down. It's now about 3/8 of an inch tall, and she likes it, and that's the important part. And like I said, not bad for a bunch of reclaimed hardwood flooring. Um, Again, I'm not real happy with the fit of these joints simply because I don't know about wood movement. This is it's a small project, and I don't know how much wood movement I'm going to have on these sides. I don't think there's going to be much, but I'm going to keep an eye on it. And if there isn't a lot of wood movement, I'll take everything down if I can wrestle it away from her and bring it out and glue and clamp these joints. But another thing I could have done, and I didn't mention it in the video this morning, is one of the, I guess you could say, one of the hallmarks of a shaker style is where you have joints like this, a shelf or a stretcher, that joins a side, is they will actually do a dovetail joint. And so they would put the dovetail on the end of the shelf or the stretcher, whichever it is, and then cut a dovetail instead of a dado in the side. And that would allow it to move should this side expand or contract, but still lock it secure. And in hindsight, I probably should have done that. But for now, I'm just going to kind of keep my eyes on this. And if there's no wood movement, then I'll go ahead and glue this up. But you know, she's happy with it right now, and that's the way it's going to stay, basically. Because like I said, I'd have to take all this down. And now, Norm wants to know, why isn't there a Mark Lindsay cup on the shelf? That's because it's usually in her hand. I ordered one when I first got them designed. I ordered a coffee cup, and I got to take it out of the box and show it to her, and she said, "Oh, let me see that." And I haven't held it in my hand since. So, you know, I do need to order myself one, but I've been using this for 15 years, so what the heck. So that's the reason. That's why there isn't a Mark Lindsay cup. Okay, let's go ahead and get to some of your questions. If you have any questions, by all means, do put them in the chat over here, and I will try to get to them in due course. Norman Petersen first wants to know, great video this morning, thank you. Do you ever zero Z off of the spoil board? The short answer is yes, I do. And I didn't go into surfacing those panels in the video this morning, but because I plan on making a separate video specifically about surfacing, and that's one of the times that I do set Z0 off of the spoil board. And that is so I can plane, for lack of a better term, I can surface a piece of material to a specific height. Like the sides, I wanted them 1/2 inch thick. They needed to be a 1/2 inch thick to make all of this work. I say all of this like you can see what I'm talking about. Oh, you can see what I'm talking about. So the short answer is yes, I do. Let me go ahead and stop sharing that. And when I get into that, when I get into that video on surfacing, I'll talk about that. Okay. Let's see. Bob Help the Bridle says, but you do have a stainless steel cup with your logo on it. Yes, sir, I do. And thank you very much for sending me that. Bob Help the Bridle. Good guy. Very good guy. So let's see here. We have another question. Let's see. Jeff, JMJ Love Dance. Question about USB drive. Does everyone load their files onto the PC versus running from the USB? Again, I did not get into this during the live Q&A. during the video, because I figured I would address it here. There are some machines, I believe Next Wave is one of them, and maybe Laguna. I may be wrong on that. There are some machines that the whole controller is run off a pendant, and you plug that USB drive into the pendant, and you run it from the USB drive through that pendant. You have to do it that way. I use Mach 3, and I have found that there are sometimes the data transfer rate for the USB drive isn't fast enough to keep up with Mach 3. So I just found it easier, and heck, I get a better result to just go ahead and drag and drop that folder over onto the desktop of the computer that's running Mach 3 and run it straight off of the computer. USB ports can go to sleep. And this is especially true if you're using a laptop, because laptops are all about power saving. And USB ports can go to sleep. The data transfer rate can slow down. I just find a lot fewer issues by transferring it over to the computer. That way there's no question at all. It just eliminates a lot of issues. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But yeah, I never run off of the USB drive. I always transfer straight away over to the computer and run it that way. Yeah, Brooks Martin is saying Next Wave Automation Sharks run from a pendant. Yes, in that case, you do have to run the USB drive. Let's see. Yeah, and Dave Bonnie, his is a general 915X and only runs off USB. Yeah, and then Laguna. Okay, but you can load the files to it. Okay, all right. Yeah, okay, yeah, Bob Helter Bridle says it's possible for the USB port to go to sleep. Yes, and that's what I mean. I just don't have any issues if I go ahead and just transfer. And it takes like 5 seconds. So, it takes longer for me to turn the controller on than it does for me to transfer that file. So, let's see here. Let's jump in here and go back over to some of the questions. I'm going to take some of these out of order. And, okay, let's see. Brooks Martin says, with the keyhole slot, if you remove a cup and the tea from the same side, is there movement? Yes, but the cure to that is, and I have to go down and get them. I don't have any right now. I ran out. The secret to that is I put the screw in as far as it can go and still be able to get it on there so that it sits tight against the wall. And I get the little silicone rubber bumpers, I guess, for the lack of a better term, that are self-adhesive. It's just a little silicone rubber dot that's real short. It's not very big at all. And I put 2 on the bottom, 2 on the top of the back so that they sit against the wall and they provide just enough grip against the wall that there is no movement. So that's something I learned a long time ago. Do it with picture frames, do it with everything that sits against the wall so that there's just enough grip. I used to use the little felt pads, but even they will slip. They will grip a little bit, but not as well as the little self-adhesive rubber ones. And that keeps everything nice and straight. I mean, obviously, if you walk over and smack it, it will, move. But they really help, believe me. So let's see here. Let's go back over. Okay, a lot of questions on the blue tape. Russell Faraday, what is the reason for blue tape? I've been using white for about a year now, never had a problem. I have a personal problem with double-sided tape. I have found it to be inconsistent. I have found it to be a mess. It either holds so firmly you can't get the parts separated, or if it gets warm, especially. I've had templates move while working with a hand router, and I don't want to take that chance on the CNC. I don't want it to move. So, in fact, I was doing a headstock just before I started building my first CNC. I was doing a guitar headstock with the template mounted on it, and the tape had warmed up just enough to where I got around the back side of the headstock, almost finished trimming it down, and I watched it happen. The template shifted, and of course the router bit followed it, and which led to another piece of firewood, and I had to start over on that neck. So I saw that painter's tape, the blue painter's tape and CA glue on Crimson Custom Guitars YouTube channel. They used it just to apply thin strips of sandpaper to a machined flat leveling beam for leveling frets because they couldn't find self-adhesive sandpaper in the right width for their leveling beams. But they could find sandpaper, but just with no adhesive. And so they tried it and it worked. And he said, I would imagine you could use this for templates. And I thought to myself, if you could use it for templates, you could probably do it on the CNC too. So I tried it. It worked. And I've been using it for 5, 6, 7 years now. And it's never failed, not once, not one time. And the secret is, like I said in the video, I can burnish down that tape onto the bed and onto the back of the material. And I can't do that with double-sided tape. Once I get that backing peeled off and I go to press it together, it's down to how firmly I can press that down. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. So it just depends. But with this, it's never failed, not once. And I've cut some pretty big stuff. And that's why I demonstrated it with the back too. The back, when I cut that out and when I surfaced it, it was all done with the blue tape and CA glue. And it holds firm, but it comes up real easy. So, and I didn't mention it in the video, and I should have. I also don't get as much residue. Double-sided tape can be kind of gummy, the adhesive, and there's a lot of residue buildup on the tip of the bit. And with this, I cut out the entire project and never had any residue buildup. So I didn't have to clean the bit or do anything to it throughout this entire project. And I, depending upon the double-sided tape, I probably would have had to take it out and clean up the bit. Okay, you meant white masking tape. With the CA glue. Yeah, I used this mainly because I had it. I did a lot of painting in here, and I've got rolls of blue painter's tape all over the place, and we've done some other things in the house. So I had it. I use it. I have used the plain old Manila masking tape as well. And I've used the green painter's tape. I've used a bunch of tape. And the only tape I don't like is I want to say it's 3M that makes a, I want to say it's 3M that makes a quote unquote environmentally friendly tape. A greener tape, they call it. I didn't like it because the paper that they make the tape out of is so thin that it held just fine. It worked great. But when you went to take it off, it basically came off in shreds. And I ended up having to go back over it with a single edge razor blade to remove all the tape. It just would not come off with a, you know, without a lot of work. So, but yeah, just about basically any tape other than that environmentally friendly stuff, uh, any masking or painter's tape, and any CA glue with or without accelerator will work. Now, a word on the accelerator: if you use it, make sure to wipe down that piece of material with denatured alcohol, mineral spirits, or lacquer thin, or one of the three, before you finish it, because it can cause issues with some finishes. But I do that anyway. After sanding, I always wipe everything down with mineral spirits. So it works. Let's see here. Okay. Pablo Diablo. Excellent name, by the way. Do you ever plane your stock flat before machining? Yes, I did it in this video that was released this morning. I ran everything through my little lunchbox planer to basically to remove all the grooves off the bottom of the flooring and then remove the old finish. And then when I had a nice, a relatively flat surface, I brought it in here and surfaced one side on the CNC, then flipped it over and surfaced to thickness from there. And surfacing on the CNC removes planer snipe. It removes all kinds of stuff. A little bit of behind the scenes here. You'll notice in, I think it was the sides where I had the two sides sitting side by side and I was surfacing them. In one shot, there's like a black ring where it looks like the bit burned the material. The bit did burn the material because I had a false trigger on a limit switch, and the machine stopped and sat there and spun. I had to go in and clear that false trigger and change my debounce in Mach 3, and they're just anyway. But yeah, it came right off. It's no big deal. But yes, I do that. And again, I am going to be doing a separate video on surfacing on the CNC. It's relatively easy, but there's a couple of things to watch for. So, okay. Let's see here. Terry McQueen. Is there a way to make an irregular shape like a heart and carve it out into a dish? Thanks. Yes, very much so. Basically, I'm trying to think if I have a video on that. I don't think I have a video on that specifically, but I can make a video on it. Let me go ahead and do that. I don't think I've done a video. I'll go ahead. I just made a note to myself. Basically, take that irregular shape and then offset the offset that vector to the inside by however much you want the wall thickness of the dish to be. Then pocket out that inside and then do your perimeter cutout profile on the outside. There. It took me longer to tell you that than it does to do it. But I will do a video on it because I've had several questions on it. I don't think I have any pictures on this computer, but I made a couple of candy dishes for my daughters out of some walnut. Oh, it's been a few years back. I find that what I do is I'll make like a candy dish, and we filled it full of fudge and goodies and went over to their house for Christmas. And then it's just, well, you can keep the dish. I can make another one. And of course, I made two of them because both daughters were there. And it's like, here, that's yours and that's yours. And they love that kind of thing. So I get to make projects and have fun with it, but I don't have a bunch of stuff sitting around the house. So so, but yeah, I will make a video specifically on that. In fact, I should have made one for Valentine's Day. But what can I say? Let's see here. Um, would you use a Cove bit for it? I don't have a Cove bit. I have a I just used a regular 1/4 inch ball nose bit, not a tapered ball nose, just a 1/4 inch ball nose bit. But I can. Yeah, okay. I'll add it to a list. So there we go. My birthday is already over with. So buy a Cove bit. There we go. Just wrote a note to myself. Can't guarantee when it's going to come out, but it's on the list. So there we go. Let's see here. Jump over to the next one. ETA on the pirate inlay project. That should be the next video. Now with that done, I can get back on the pirate. I'm going to, the next video, I'll be finalizing the design and exporting G code to start carving. That a caveat on that, and that's simply because it's going to take a while to actually do the project. If you have watched my videos in the past, my live streams with Shane Peters and Rob Sandstrom, you know that these projects take a lot of time because you do a carve, you pour one color, then that has to sit and cure overnight, a minimum of 24 hours. Then you come back and carve the next color, pour that, then that has to sit. Some of these can take several weeks to do. So the next video is going to be organizing and arranging all of the vectors onto their own layers. Then all of those layers, calculating the tool paths and getting the order of operations set up. Then export all the G code onto the flash drive, and that's where that next video is going to end. Then I'll be filming as I actually do the cutting. Also, I'm ordering the tints for all of the tints for the various colors I need, and finalizing which epoxy I'm going to use. But that will be the next video, is working on that. So let's see here. Let's see. Bob Health Battle says they do make a bowl bit that's like a large round nose bit. Yes, they do. I'm trying to think of who it is. Gosh, I get their catalogs all the time. They have some very good quality bowl bits, and it's not just like if you take a 1/4 inch ball nose or a 1/2 inch ball nose, it's just a direct 1/2 inch semicircle, diameter. That's what I'm trying to think of. These are more flat, and the radius is a little bit different. It's more of an angle than just a standard 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch ball nose. No, it's neither Freud nor Whiteside that I'm thinking of. They may make nice bowl bits, but this company specializes in. They make a lot of templates for trays and what have you, and you get 2 templates, one for hand routing the inside of like um, a bowl or dish that looks like the shape of a dog bone. So they have that template to hollow out the inside. Then they have another larger one to cut out the outside, and it's very cool. Most of their um, target audience, I guess you'd say, are the handheld router guys, but they have some very cool things that also work for CNC. I cannot for the life of me remember the name. It's not Magnate, no, and it's not Infinity. I can't remember the name of the company. When I do remember it, I will put it down in the description box of this video, and I'll go ahead and link to their website. I want to say Woodcraft, but I know it's not Woodcraft. It's not Woodcraft, but it's something similar. No, it's not MLCS either. Jack Matson. I'm glad to help you save a lot of time and money. Thank you for your support. I appreciate it more than you will ever know. I don't think it's MLCS, but MLCS is also a good supplier. It might be MLCS. It might be. I don't know. I get catalogs like twice a year from them, and I just haven't done it. I got a lot of people saying MLCS, and that might be them. I'll go in, look at the catalog, and go, oh no. So, but yeah, they don't specialize in CNC, but a lot of their stuff can be used for CNC, and the bits they're not expensive, and it's worth looking into for a bowl bit for sure. So let's see here. Let me jump over and Peter Van Vliet, have you ever used a laser head on your CNC with the Vectric laser toolpath? No, sir, I have not. I don't have a laser out here. I had plans on putting a laser back over back over in this corner of the shop, but I quickly ran out of room for it, and a laser is not a separate freestanding laser is not in my future. I may be looking into a laser for the CNC router. I don't know. Watch this space. There may be one coming, but as of right now, no, I have not. So, Peter Van Vliet wants to know, how do you have your dust collection set up on the CNC? It's very rudimentary, and I hesitate to recommend it. You can see behind me right there, that is a little dust collection cart I have a rigid shop vac and a little plastic gizmo on top of a 5-gallon bucket. It's called the dust topper. Let me turn that off so you can kind of see it. And it sits on a 5-gallon bucket, and this big hose in the front, the vertical hose right there, that runs from the dust topper down to the intake on the shop vac. And then the hose itself runs out of the side right there. It comes out of the dust topper there. And I have a 20-foot hose that I run over to a piece of PVC electrical conduit that runs up the wall, goes around a corner, and then over the top of the machine, and then a flexible vinyl hose down to the dust boot that Andrew Haig 3D printed for me. It does okay, but because it's still just a small shop vac, it's not very good. It's not very effective, as you saw in the video. There is no dust, but it misses a lot of chips, and I just need to up my game. Speaking of which, I have still in the box, sitting right over here on the other side of the CNC, down low where you can't see it. I bit the bullet and I bought the 2 horsepower Harbor Freight dust collector. Now I've got to get the cyclone and the pipe to install it because I really need to up my dust collection game. The little shop vac works excellent for my table saw and my sanders, but it just can't keep up with the CNC. The CNC makes too many chips too fast. So, it's my dust collection game is coming up. So, let's see. Let's see here. Bob Heltbridle says most of those bowl bits have a bearing. Yes, they do. But you can get them without the bearing. And if you have a bearing separator, you can remove that bearing. You're talking about a bearing up above the cutting surface that you follow a template with. If you have a bearing separator, you can remove that bearing. So, yeah, I don't use any kind of bit that needs a guide bearing on my CNC. I remove the bearing, and if it's a bearing on the bottom, I take it out and then grind that thing flat, and then make absolutely certain that I'm only using it on certain specific type of project where I've already got it cut out and the waste removed, and then I'm just going around the edge. But I don't do that very often. So it's not something that I endorse, which is why I have not talked about it. Let's see. Let's see. Michael Keymont says, I had to buy a laser for my business, 50 watt. It's another fun way to get stuff done. I would not put one on my CNC now that I've used one. Fire danger. Yeah. And fire danger is a very real thing when you're talking about lasers. Most of the lasers that I have seen that you can fit to a standard CNC router are diode lasers, which are not as powerful as your 50 watt. And so you're talking about lower power ratings, which they're perfectly capable of starting a fire, don't get me wrong. But that's less of an issue than with your big 50 watt. Also, with a laser, I'm not running, well, nobody would be running dust collection. So, you're not going to be sucking embers up into your dust collector. You can't see it because it's hidden behind the hose. But there is you can just barely see it above the top of the coiled hose right there. I have a fire extinguisher right there. And every shop should have at least one fire extinguisher. But the diode lasers are less than they're not made for cutting through material. They're made for engraving material, and that's what I would be using it for. So let's see. Back to the okay. back to the dust collector. I'm about to fit a dust boot. I need an earth wire down the middle of the hose. Bare question. A bare wire, I assume. That's exactly what I did. I ran a bare wire from the very end of the uh, dust shoe here on the CNC, ran it up through the hose and down through that PVC conduit that I have hanging on the wall. That wire runs over to ground or to earth for you, over in the UK. And I did it for one reason only. I've watched several videos by various people who say that that is just not necessary, that you can't ground PVC, that you're not going to cause an explosion, you're not going to cause a fire, this, that, and the other. I agree that it would be very, very difficult to to create an explosion with a home dust collector. It would be extremely difficult because it has to be the perfect combination of dust to air mixture, and it has to be the perfect ignition source. That's not why I ground my dust collector on the CNC. I ground the dust collector on the CNC to give static an outlet to go somewhere that is not the electronics on my CNC. I have seen and I have felt the static arc off of PVC pipe and onto me. I don't want it arcing over to one of my control cables, the limit switch cable, or one of the data cables and frying my electronics. That's why I'm doing it. No, you can't ground PVC pipe, but you can give that static electricity a place to arc to where it's not going to do any harm to your electronics. And that's the whole reason I do it. It's not about fire prevention. It's not about explosive prevention. It's about a stray arc flying off of that PVC pipe and zapping my electronics. That's unacceptable. So that's why I do it. And believe me, it works. Now, the PVC conduit running halfway down the wall is all that's grounded. The hose isn't grounded. The shop vac isn't grounded. None of that stuff, because I don't care about that. That's not going to affect the CNC at all. What I do care about is too much money invested in electronics to let a silly thing like that fry them. So let's see here. Peter Van Vliet says, I use the JTEC diode laser on my CNC. Works really well, but venting smoke and watching out for flames is a real thing. Yes. And I was not trying to diminish the very real possibility of starting a fire with a diode laser. What I was saying was that the diode laser is having less power than a big CO2 laser. And it's when you're talking about lower power settings, the likelihood is less. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to be standing there at the ready with a fire extinguisher, because nature always sides with the hidden flaw. And you don't know when that laser is going to run over a pitch pocket that flares up. So it could happen. But with lower power and the power turned down on it, it's less likely. So, talking about dust collection again, put a Powermatic, blah, 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 dust filter bag for wall mount dust collectors. 3 micron on my Harbor Freight dust collector, stopped all the dust. I'm going to run the stock 5 micron bag for right now, but that's only because I'm getting ready to build a lean-to on the back of the shed, and the dust collector is going to be moved outside. It's not going to be in here. So I don't care about dust. I won't be doing any dust filtration on it or anything. I am going to run a cyclone because I don't want to keep um, changing out bags. I'm going to go with a dust deputy and drop it down into a drum. So the dust collection will run into the dust deputy, and then, that'll be it. And the dust outside can do what it wants. It's windy enough and dusty enough around here. I'm not contributing anything, believe me. So, yeah, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on air filtration in here. And yes, much like you, Harbor Freight dust collector to build my own and vent what's left outside. That's exactly what I'm doing. And steel blade, yes, I agree with you, Joey. You can start a fire really quick with a laser. So, but let's see. Bum, 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 bum. The Harbor Freight dust collector will fail you eventually. Plan on getting a better filter on it right away. I've already addressed the filter thing. I ended up buying a jet when the Harbor Freight failed. I got this as a stopgap. I really, really, really like the looks of the Oneida dust collector with the cyclone and the whole thing. I just can't justify $2,100 or more for a dust collector right now. Not right now, but that's just something. That's my pipe dream down the road. Oneida, if you're listening, have your people call my people. We'll do lunch. No, just call me. Don't. Okay, let's see here. Just don't ground the wire to the router spindle other to earth ground. Right. Yes. Yeah. You create a ground loop there, and then you're chasing gremlins you don't want to chase. The That goes to a separate ground. So let's see here now. I have one more here. Pablo Diablo wants to talk about soft limits in Mach 3. I'm the wrong person to talk to because I don't use soft limits. Um, I To me, this is my opinion, okay? Take it with as many grains of salt as you need to, or as many pounds of salt as you need to. I find soft limits for me to be unnecessary. I draw out a project on a piece of material that's, let's say, 12 inches by 12 inches, and I put that on my machine bed, which is much larger than 12 by 12. And I set my XYZ 0, and there's no reason for that machine to go anywhere else. It so I don't personally use soft limits. That may change in the future, and I may get into it and explore them a little bit more. But soft limits, I generally speaking don't use them. So I'm not the person to talk to about that. I'm sorry. I mean, that's just it. That's just it. So let's see. Go back down here looking for more. Um, yeah, Rob Schuster. Yeah, sarcasm is right. For those of you who don't know, I did get a K40 laser and had it set up back in the office that I used to do these live Q&As from, but it was freight damaged. And it was freight damaged to the point to where it could not be calibrated. I could not get it aligned, and so I returned it. And when they got it back, even they were like, "Oh, holy cow! No, there's no way you'd have ever got this thing aligned." I had it just long enough to know that it's too small for what I want to do with a laser. And basically, if you've never used a K40 or never been around one, your work capacity is roughly the size of a sheet of printer paper. And that's just too small. You can put bigger things in there on the bed, but the limits that are built into the design on one of those K40s, it was just way too small. So I never bothered to replace it. But yeah, Brooks is talking about the other end here. As I said, I have it. If you go back and you look at that video this morning, you can see a little machine screw sticking out of the front of the wand extension that goes into the dust boot with a nut on it. You can see that. And that's where that wire terminates. It terminates on that wand. It's not attached to anything metal other than that screw there. And it's just bare ground wire. It's like, oh, I don't know, 20 gauge braid or something like that. And it runs all the way up through the pipe and outside the PVC pipe. So, okay, let's see here. Let's see. Peter Van Vliet wants to know: do you CNC any non-wood material like acrylic or aluminum? Not yet. I'm using a Porter Cable 890 router as a spindle right now. One of the upgrades I plan to do is adding a air-cooled spindle, and it is variable speed, but I can only slow it down to about 12,000 RPM. And that's still too fast for doing acrylic. And I haven't done any aluminum. I haven't had the need. I do want to play around with some aluminum, but I think that might be too fast for aluminum as well. I don't know. I haven't really checked into it. I'm a wood guy. I'm not a metal guy. So I have not even attempted aluminum yet. Now, my guru, Dave Gatton, he cuts aluminum on his Gatton CNC, but he has a spindle. So I don't know if he did it with his router setup or not. So let's see. Russell Faraday says, I have soft limits on, and a couple of times it has warned me with an ignore soft limits when I hit cycle start. Was a very short cutter, so Z would not quite reach the bed. Okay, I see that. See, I don't have any lower limit on my Z. I figure, the Z is going to cut as deep as it needs to cut. And so long as I set Z0, first of all, home the machine. That's the first thing I do. The minute I turn that controller on and I have Mach 3 running, home the machine. Then set my XYZ work 0 and ready to go. I don't have a Z minus limit switch, and I don't use the soft limits either. So, okay, well, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. It's been almost an hour. Next week will be another open Q&A. We can get into whatever you want to talk about. Then the video that will be coming out, should be coming out in 2 weeks. We'll get back on the Pirate and we'll finalize the design, save everything onto the thumb drive that I don't have in here anymore. And then after that, I can get to, as soon as all my tints and everything arrive, I can get to carving and pouring. But that's going to take a few weeks. A couple weeks ago, excuse me, a couple weeks ago, I mentioned a video I need to make as a companion piece to the article I wrote for my website. That will probably be the video after the Pirate, just simply because I need to get that done. And I will need something to go in between finishing up the pirate design and then the actual project being done. So watch for that. And other than that, next week will be open Q&A, answer your questions. And I may have a guest. It's going to depend on if he can make it or not. I shouldn't have said anything. Other than that, thank you very much for the super chat. I really, really do appreciate it. Jack Matson, you're a prince among princes. Appreciate it more than you'll ever know. Thank you to everybody who has used those donation links down in the description of this video. If you're joining us for the first time, remember there's a link to my Vectric for Absolute Beginners video series down in the description of this video and all of my other videos, as well as a link to my V-carving for Absolute Beginner video series. It too is in the description box of this video and all of my other videos. So click there. It'll take you to a playlist, show you all of the videos in order, starting with number 1, working their way down. That's the place to go. So I don't have any links to post. Yes, I do. I will find out what that catalog was. I think it's MLCS now that you mention it. And I'll link their website for you to go check them out. So until next week, y'all take care. Get out in the shop, make some chips. Personally, I got to start putting a dust collector together. So until next week, y'all take care. Have a good one and thank you.